Welcome back to new episode of the podcast for creatives, thinkers, and doers. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Boys, in the mayor's office, hang with people who are doing the dang thing. Now, you know, many moons ago, this guy, yours truly, was a film student graduate. They let me graduate with a degree, which meant absolutely nothing in the real world. So my guest is actually doing something with something that's really positive. Please welcome Haui to the show. Haui, how's it going?
Oh, it's going so well. How are you?
I am ecstatic because I've been to a deep dive of your work, and I was kind of like, wow, this is actually cool. Sometimes you have a guest, you're like, what are we going to talk about? There's a lot to talk about today. How you doing?
I'm doing really well.
Yeah,
It was such a nice break over the holidays away from I don't want to say the madness, but just doing all the work I've been doing. It was so nice to rejuvenate over the holidays and be
yeah.
back talking with, other creatives like yourself. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Wait, how do you rejuvenate then? Because the holidays stress me out. That's the opposite.
Oh, that's so funny. How do I rejuvenate? I think cooking is a big thing for me. You gotta have good food, good
Yeah.
laughs, good loves. So it was a much needed break from a really big year. And this upcoming year is also, there's a lot, there's a lot of plates spinning.
Can I be all up in your business and ask you, what do you cook?
Oh, good question. I love eggplant. I know. Um, I don't know what the name is for it in the States. Do you
What
say
egg?
aubergine or
No,
eggplant?
we say eggplant, but
Oh, you say eggplant.
aubergine is like my parents are from the West Indies. They'll say aubergine
Okay.
because
Yeah,
it's
we
a
say
British thing.
aubergine too.
Yeah, but eggplant. Yeah.
Yeah, so eggplant I love. I love a good like lamb. I love
Yeah.
lamb.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love cooking.
That is an elevated experience because, like, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, like, I'm in that bachelor world. So I talk to my bachelor friends, like, hey, what are you making? Ah, mac and cheese. But you're talking about eggplants and lamb. It's like, oh, wow, okay. Party at Howie's house.
Yeah.
You do a lot. And it's interesting because it's kind of hard to put that into a byline. In fact, I'm writing the caption for today's episode is going to be a challenge for me personally. But I always ask some of my creatives, if you're at a party and someone's like, hey, what do you do? How do you frame all of your slashes, all of the things you're good at, into one sentence, if that's possible?
Oh my God, it's such a good question. And it's something I actually very recently had the chance to solidify
Yeah.
with some, we're very fortunate in Canada. We have a lot of art support. And so I got this grant to sort of consolidate that idea. And I think a big part of my lived experience is, I'm mixed heritage. I'm Caribbean, I'm white, there's so many intersections that I embody and inhabit. And so I was able to sort of consolidate the language to being a mixed media artist who directs, devises, and designs new media for stage and screen. And
Hmm.
inside of that is, you know, for stage, it's as you say, there's so many things that I do, but it's along that is devising, producing, playwriting, being a poet, and visual arts. I do video and projection design,
Yeah.
visual arts, and then directing for stage and screen. So I say mixed media because it's an interesting discovery that I made even in the pandemic, being mixed. I don't like to say mixed race anymore. A mixed
Okay.
heritage,
Okay.
because there's only one race. We know that. We all know that.
Sure.
So being mixed in my heritage, being mixed in my gender, even, and mixed in my orientation, I think it's a beautiful expression of my existence, and it's a theme that's emerged for a very long time. That often the stories that I do, that I create, the form will often present itself. And
Yeah.
so, it's not like I'm actively going, I want to make a film. That the story really invites the medium that it wants to be shared through.
Right. So you had mentioned that you have West Indian heritage or your Caribbean heritage. And I maybe
Mhm.
it's my experience, maybe it's a little different, maybe it's the same. Maybe you help me out. But my parents are from the West Indies, and my parents have very logical jobs. My mom's a nurse, my dad's an electrical engineer. Those early years when I was like, oh man, visual media is my thing. It was kind of like, Get a real job. Was your network like that, or was it different? Like, what? How is it? Was it kind of similar? What was it? What was your mix growing up when you decided this is my path, this is my calling?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because, similar backgrounds. Like my mom is European, my dad is mixed Cuban, Jamaican, and he's also part white as well. And so my mom's a pharmacist, my dad's in construction, and ironically, me and my two sisters are all in the arts. So
Okay,
I don't know they how and what they think about that. They're incredibly supportive, but I think they recognize it's a hard industry to it's precarious. We don't know when the next job is going to be. Fortunately, I've been building a practice for, I would say, about the last decade that I've been able to live and do what I do. So yeah, they've been very supportive, and I
okay,
know that's a rare thing because I know, coming from, I would say, a working class background in the UK, which is where I was born.
okay.
Um, and there's so many incredible different nuances being Black British versus Black American and even Black Canadian. Like there's so many nuances inside those experiences that I know other people that their parents who are from the West Indies are like, no, get a real job.
Sure, sure,
And
sure.
I hope to dispel that idea that the arts is not a job, because it is. It's the work that I do is, and the work that we both do is important, I think, incredibly important.
Yeah. To me, I know this is kind of like the way I try to make sense of it with my friends and say, because I came from comedy and then writing into comedy and then in podcasting, broadcasting, all that stuff. They say, hey man, is what you do a science or is it art? And I go, well, it's
Mm,
all of that because you do experiment and it is kind of a craft, but it's kind of like also a sport where you have to go out there and practice and fail and take L's and go on a hot streak and stuff like that. So it is a very unique thing. I think my parents have come around. Personally, they've come kind of like we don't know what that is. We can't help you out with YouTube views, but if it makes you happy, then we know we instilled work ethic, so you'll do it. So props to that. But I hope the next generation won't have that problem or those barriers that
mm.
come across. So let's get into it. Private Flowers. I actually saw the trailer online. It's available now. It's going to be premiering in Los Angeles as this is recorded. And well, I was going to ask you about what made you, what drew you to the project, but it's very much an important part of Canadian history. So walk me through that. Your journey between coming across this on your desk and making it to reality.
Yeah, oh my God, what a big question. I guess I'll start by saying there's so much unspoken history. And that's a big part of my practice, is how do we unearth these stories that have been relegated to the past, relegated to the sort of peripheries of society. It's a huge part of the work that I do. And I was approached by the city of Toronto. I live very close to Toronto.
I love that city.
About, have you been?
Twice, but during the summer, so I haven't been to a
Okay.
Canadian winter, but I've been
Yeah, you don't
twice.
want to be here right now. Um, they basically they approached me about doing a piece for Pride last summer, and I had stumbled upon this history within a book that I was reading called "The Regulations of Desire," which talked about queer history within the military, and had been interested in exploring this idea of, how do we build connection and brotherhood and kinship amidst the frame of war.
Hmm.
And interestingly enough, like, it happens so often that when men are grouped together, things happen, intimacies, men engage in intimate acts. And so I was interested in exploring that. The city approached me about doing a piece that really spoke to their efforts to address anti-Black, anti-queer themes. And I was like, you know what, I want this incredible site, which is called Fort York National Historic Site, and it's an incredible barracks in the middle of downtown Toronto. And I was like, I want to do this story that no one knows about. And I'd learned about it because the year I was born a group of artists in Toronto that included, oh my God, Damon Delavera, who did Book of Negroes, my husband, a bunch of artists who were my age in the 90s. They did a piece about the same history.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, like these amazing artists. And what does it mean as an artist of color to take what they did one step further?
Yeah.
And to, we don't know if Private Flowers was Black, Indigenous, but I wanted to work with these incredible artists, friends of mine, Jara Wolf and Rodney Diverlis, who are in the film. Rodney is one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter Canada. Like, how do we reframe history? How do we revise history in a way? Because it is revisionist, and we see a lot of content right now, like Shonda Rhimes doing Bridgerton. Like, what does it mean to take a history as we assume it was and put our stamp on it? So that's sort of the Cliff Notes version of
Sure.
how I came to sort of do this piece, and it was really cool to have the city behind it, to see them actually trying to be good,
Right.
and put their money where their mouth is, really.
Well, that was my follow up
Mhm.
question. I know the city came to you and the film got made because it's going to be having a screening as we're recording this. But like, what was like that moment? Was it kind of like, were you unsure if the intentions were pure? You went back to your network. Was it, were you jump at the chance like, oh my gosh, Toronto's hit me up? Or it's kind of like, what's the ulterior motive? I think a lot of times as creatives, we wonder about our patrons sometimes, and you wanted to make sure that your expression is used for good. You know?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was a question we asked ourselves a lot,
Yeah.
especially, when we're talking about the private acts that we share as queer people of color. Like, what is the motive of a city like Toronto? And I did get some interesting comments from them, especially when it came to nudity. Like, what does it mean to commodify bodies of color? And we very actively, Rodney, Jarrett, and I were like, you know what, we're not gonna do this nude because they don't get to see that. They don't get to commodify us in that way. We have the autonomy here. So it
Sure.
was the Toronto History Museums, who were the producers, they're an incredible team, a small team, an incredible team. So it was a really nuanced sort of dance between us and the mentor that I had, Ashley Mackenzie Barnes. Ashley's worked with Snoop Dogg and like all of these incredible artists as a curator. So I felt like I was in very good hands.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about what Ashley did was she didn't, so often when you're mentored, the mentor centralizes themselves.
Hmm.
And it was a really cool case where I felt like she was just there when I needed her, but she really uplifted me. And truly, that process, I feel like, this whole question of, are you an emerging artist? Are you mid career? So many people throw those ideas around, and I feel like I truly emerged from this process.
Yeah.
And part of that is, I think, the quality of the work for one thing, but also the the impact of who's seen it. A lot of people have seen it in Toronto now. I've had, no, besides the film, there's a big mural downtown Toronto that, it's cool to see your work in public spaces,
Yeah.
because on special occasions, on one day alone, 1,000 people can see your work.
Right.
So my sort of footprint is expanded from this project. And I think, in a way, like Danny Glover and the team at Pan African Film Festival, they saw the impact and naturally want to have cross cultural, cross exchange, because this imaginary line that divides Canada and the US is truly imaginary. Like, we're all in North America, we all have really distinct points of view to share. And I feel like I have been seen now through this project.
Maybe it's kind of like our optimism. It seems like Americans look at Canada and go, man, things are just so much easier over there, but I'm sure that it has its own challenges, maybe different challenges, but especially with your kind of art.
Well, I feel like there's this real historicization up here of, oh, racism didn't happen here. Canada was freedom, and it's so not the case, especially with like within the hidden chapters of Canada's history, to learn that amidst like I think there were 80 documented cases of criminal charges related to acts of sodomy within the military where people lost their lives. There was huge amounts of slavery up here. So we have a lot to address in our country. And I don't want to say one is worse than the other,
For sure, for
but
sure.
I think it was, we said before we hit record on this, like I
Mhm.
like talking about subjects that make us uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
ideally we can move forward conscientiously as people, and I think it's important to look back so we can move forward, so we're not sort of working in silos and whirlpools where we're in this cyclical nature, but that we can actually change the current.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. It's just it's here in the United States, and then I almost never try to speak for my country of origin because it's a very complex history. But there's always seems to be this thing where I won't say quite to the point of erasure, but it's like, oh yeah, that thing happened. Get over it. We'll just remove this from the history books, remove these programs for anyone who's marginalized, not just Black people, but Asians,
Mm,
Native Americans, or natives. Always feels like oh yeah, that happened. Don't worry about it. But then certain statues are raised because of history. You're like, well,
right.
why are certain histories being underlined and some are being rubbed out? So that's just kind of like my little small little soapbox
Yeah,
when
no, it's
when it comes to that.
and I hope I don't sound like I'm, you know, it's such a nuanced way to talk about these things, because I never want to be didactic,
Sure.
because obviously like I wasn't born in Canada, I was born in the UK, and coming here I've learned so much about indigenous relationships and sovereignty to this land. So I often will say I feel like I'm in a process of constantly decolonizing myself, because
Mm,
had I stayed in the UK, I think, well, I don't know actually, but because I'm, from some people I don't look Black,
mhm,
I feel like there is a world in which I could have passed for my life and never talked about my background. And but I'm really glad that I've gone through this process, because to be able to teach others that Blackness comes in all shades, and it's really it's profoundly changed my life, moving to Canada and exploring all of these ideas through my work.
I think we do all creators of color struggle with this and because this idea of like, look, I'm only one man, this is my experience, is a little different, but then there are some themes, but then there's also an appreciation from having that outside perspective, because even
Mm,
though I'm first generation, so my parents are both from Barbados, from the same parish, they can take the same bus lines to school, so it's very very close. My familiar diaspora is basically Barbados and Scotland. That's pretty much
mm,
it. But at the same time, I grew up essentially African American. My culturally here, I've hung out with more of the American Black kids, but I doesn't necessarily say my perspective is lesser than, but it could be seen as different or could be useful in other ways. And I think with our
mm,
art, well, doing our comedy or our podcast, there is a bit of hesitation here. I don't want to speak for them or overstate things or oversimplify things. But I think if you think of like your work as a single flare in the darkness, then no
mm.
one should really drag you for that, right? That's how you see the world. No?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. I love that you're a Bayesian baby. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's it. Exactly. St. Lucie for everybody.
Oh gosh.
That's how it be. But so Pan African Film Festival, you're coming out to see it. Or coming
Yeah,
out to screen it. What's that? What's crossing fingers? Oh,
yeah.
go juju. Was that the first time you crossed international lines to see one of your works? We've done it before.
No, I did in 2017. I was one of two Canadians that screened at the Hollywood Black Film Festival.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
sure if that's still going, because I know that the founder passed away, which is so sad.
Mhm.
But I was down there in 2017, and my eldest sister lives in Los Angeles, so
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, it's nice when I get to come, especially in the winter.
Oh yeah, yeah. Say less. It's a frigid 60 degrees out here today. It's
Ah,
Fahrenheit.
so
And as someone who's a big baseball fan, I have to make it out to
mm.
Rogers at some point. I've been to Toronto twice, but I haven't seen the game there, so I have to go at least one more time
Oh my God,
to catch
yeah.
a baseball game. And Steam Whistle Pilsner, love that beer.
Oh my
That's
God. It is good.
I take the tour too many times. Let you hit the whistle if you're from out of town. Okay, it's not about me though. What is your creating process like? Are you a morning person? Are you at night? Is it kind of like when the inspiration strikes? You schedule time? What's your vibe?
Oh, I have to. That's such a good question. It's, ooh, what is my
Whoop.
process? Um, well, I feel like a big part of it is I call it my stovetop. So I have like 4 burners. Max, I can do 4 projects at a time.
Mhm.
One is sort of on a simmer, one's on a boil, one might have burnt over a little bit.
It
Um,
happens.
it happens. But I think scheduling now is a key thing for me. And also the funny thing is you never know when inspiration is going to hit you. So I do sometimes get hit at like the witching hour of the morning. So like the 3, 4, 5 a.m.
Wow, that's
And
Batman hours. What do you do at 4
yeah,
o'clock in the morning?
I know, but I think moving into more of my devising and writing now, you don't know when that hits you. And I'm actually working on a new piece right now that's set during the Harlem Renaissance in the
Oh
1920s.
wow.
And it's about a mixed race couple. Um, again, I can't say mixed race. Sorry, I don't like saying that. They're a couple of who are of mixed heritage,
Sure.
and it's a very interesting history. A lot of shared experiences to now. A lot of they were almost even a bit more progressive back then than we
Mhm.
are now. I feel like we've regressed in some ways. Um, so yeah, just following the stories that um I feel like I've been gifted to share is a big part of it. But also taking time away from it is a big part of my process now. So I don't get so consumed with everything
Yeah.
because I'm a Sagittarius and it's just part of my nature to be like that. I'm passionate about the things I do.
I gotta ask all Sagittarius this question. Do you get one gift for the holidays or two?
Oh my God. Well, December is my birthday, my wedding anniversary, and
Uh,
Christmas. So
oh, so you get
it's like the three. It's the best
and you
month for
demand three.
me.
You can't combo gift that up. That's
No.
fair. My brother's December 12th. I always tease him with that.
Uh,
So shifting gears a bit, you're also working alongside the Canadian Opera Company. Like, how did that come about? Did it
oh
have
my
your number
God.
of speed dial? Are you just like that guy?
Yeah, well, I have to do a shout out to my partner, who's also a director, and he had worked with them with the past sort of executive director who now runs the Paris Opera.
Oh
And
wow.
Alexander Neef brought my husband to do two new works, and I had sort of worked on one of them. So I had an in with the company, but I had been working on this piece about a Canadian figure. Her name is Portia White. She was a concert singer in the mid 20th century, and ironically, she couldn't be an opera singer because of how she
Mm,
looked. And so I'd been working on this piece about her. I went to Halifax in 2019 where she was born. She was born in Nova Scotia. Um, and it was there that I did the Canadian premiere of The Color Purple and was writing this piece, did not know it was an opera at the time. And then, as I said before, the form kind of presented itself because I was like, how beautifully poignant to tell her story in the art form that she could not do.
right.
That felt really important to me. And it was in 2021, I went to Roberto Moreau at the Canadian Opera Company and I said, do you have rehearsal space that we could use? And he said, maybe we could be more involved than just giving you space, which opened the sort of floodgates for them coming on as producers. And then we got this incredible fund through the National Art Centre of Canada, and they gave about $190,000 towards the development of the project. And since then, it's been very cumulative and an organic process. And we premiere this summer, so yeah, that's again my long version of how we got to where we are. But it's a big I feel like it's a very big step forward in the opera community, because our stories are not there. And the strange um experience that I've been through is the first time I saw Othello at the Canadian Opera Company, it was a white singer in blackface. And that was in 2010.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like, so there's so many ways that the opera community is ahead, but also not. And like, to use this opportunity to really talk about incredibly nuanced experiences that our community have gone through,
Yeah.
like, what a gift to do that. And all of the beautiful, poignant connections of telling a story of a Black woman named White. It's just like, you can't even write that. Like,
Right.
it's so, the beautiful irony of that, I've just leapt right into. And I will often say, like, all the shared experiences that I've gone through as, a mixed Black male who sometimes is mistaken for white, and the experience of a Black woman named White,
Sure.
that's all part of the storytelling. And how, amidst all of the racial barriers and the gender barriers that Portia went through to make a name for herself, is an incredible feat when you think about that, for someone that went through 2 world wars.
Hmm.
And Portia had a lot of secrets in her life that she couldn't share. And so that part of this opera, I've been saying, is my gift to Black women, to share a story about Black musical royalty is really, it's like nothing else, man. Like, I've never felt this way on a project before. And so it's really beautiful. Tough, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I can actually hear the pot like getting the higher heat as you're
Yeah.
describing it. Now it's coming to a boil. It seems that, but
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is cool. That 2024 seems to be very good creatively for you. Is there anything else coming on the slate that we should know about? Or
Yeah, like, well, not really. Like, I feel like I'm almost at my max on the stovetops,
fair
but
enough, fair enough.
I'm yeah, part of an anthology of work that's being published this year for my poetry, and feeling like I finally, it's an interesting it's been an interesting artistic process, because when I first started moving from performing to creating, I was really just going through doors that would open for me, and
Sure.
seeing the sort of connective tissue or the theme was harder to find.
Hmm.
But as I've been working, there's an alignment that's happened, I would say, within the last couple of years. And I sort of feel like I know the trajectory that I'm going on, which is really exciting, because I think it's truly been a process of carving my own path. And that's liberating, because then you have no one else to compare yourself to.
Yeah.
It can be isolating as well, but I sort of thrive in that, in a weird way. So
It's like the semblance of style evolving into the voice as well. That's pretty cool. That's cool to see you notice yourself growing as you're doing it. That's fantastic.
yeah, and
Yeah,
but there's also, there's blind spots too,
always.
because when you don't have an experience in something, but you say yes to it, it's part of your job to step up, and you might fail, but it's that's where you learn the most. And I'm I might take this back, but I'm not afraid of failing. And one day I might go, damn, I wish I hadn't said that. But right
Yeah.
now I go, like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. Who does care about failing? Those who fail often can tell you that it's okay to do so.
Yeah, totally.
Do you have same other podcast for creators? Hanging with Howie. You know, before we can wrap this up, there's a lot of questions we ask people on the show, kind of like a lightning round. Are you down to play?
Love it.
All right. So, as of right now, today, what is on your travel bucket list? What do you want to visit?
Oh my God, Egypt.
Really? Just that number one with a bullet.
Number
Bam.
one. And
Wow.
South Africa.
Wow, that's the African continent. Look out, Howie's coming. Everyone collects something. What do you collect?
Buttons.
What kind of buttons? Like the little, like the stick-on things? Oh,
Buttons. This is
that-
our show. This is
that a
our
pug?
opera.
Oh, okay. There he is.
There's yeah, so that first one was a pug.
Yeah.
That's Portia White right there.
Oh, that's
Boy.
cute. It's beautiful.
So yeah, buttons.
Buttons is always good. For me, it's mugs. I have so many coffee. None now, but I have so many coffee mugs. What is the greatest gift a fan has ever gotten you?
Oh. I might have to. Oh gosh. I might have to pass on that one because I'm not really like, I don't have like fans.
I don't find that. I don't believe that at all. I don't have fans.
Like what's
Support?
I guess just to support and attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That counts.
That
Right.
counts.
One of our most popular questions is, what is your favorite junk food?
Oh, jujubes.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. That's actually one of my favorites when I'm in Toronto as well.
Oh, so good.
And lastly, do you consider yourself self-made? Why or why not?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And part of that is, I think, taking opportunity as opposed to being given them. Like, well, actually, I guess I could argue that one because I have been given great opportunities, but I feel like self-made is just, sorry, my dog is snoring. Can you hear that?
Well, I was interested. I was enthralled.
You were interested. Sorry, you can cut that out. Self-made. Yeah, I would say definitely self-made.
Yeah, it's no wrong answer. Sometimes people say yes, some people say no. Always kind of cool to see what that is, you know. But yeah, anyway, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate your time, and I want to be able to see Private Flowers at the Pan Film Festival because I will be there. I will definitely be there because it definitely will be screening there, so I will be there for that. If anyone in the meantime though wants to connect with you, maybe even book you for a project, how do they go about doing that?
Well, you can reach out to me. My website is info@haui.ca, HAUI, like Maui. And on Instagram, social media, I'm under Wowie Howie. Instagram and Twitter, I think. I don't use Twitter anymore, though.
Yeah, no one else does. X or whatever it is, but definitely Instagram. Check it out. This has been the podcast for creators. Want to have you back later on in the year. Let me know how it's going. It'd be cool to catch up with you.
Mm-hmm.